play that in just about 13 minutes. In the meantime, there was one of my favorites, Andy Bailey. He's a good follow on Twitter. Does a lot of work for Bleacher Report, has his own blogs, and he's very analytic-y, if you will.
Oh, I love the analytics.
He put out a list
Great fan.
of teams and the estimated wins they gained versus wins they lost based on who they acquired, whether it be through free agency, trade, or draft, and who they lost. So what you do is you take the estimated wins and you subtract from that the estimated losses, and you come up with a figure. And I thought it was quite interesting that according to Andy's numbers, the Sacramento Kings are set to gain the 7th most wins in the NBA as of right now. They lost Damian Jones, Justin Holiday, Mo Harkless, and Dante DiVincenzo. They gained Malik Monk and Kevin Huerter. This does not count draft picks, so it actually might be even better for the Kings. He estimates based on just Monk and Huerter alone, they gained just under 9 wins, 8.9, and in losing the rest, 4.3 losses based on that. So the difference there is a positive of 4.6 wins based on last year. And again, that does not include Keegan Murray, Keon Ellis, or anybody else they acquired through the draft. So you never know with stuff like this.
Could be inching close to that 37 win mark.
That's the thing. So it brings us to Monte McNair. Now, every time I do, and I like to do this every once in a while, I do an approval rating poll. You could almost flip what the approval rating is of Kings ownership versus Monte McNair. And in the last one I did, do you approve of the job Monte McNair has done? And mind you, these aren't like 200-300 vote deals. These are 3,000-4,000 votes, which is not everybody, obviously, but it's a good chunk of the Sacramento Kings fan base, at least on social media. And Monty is polling somewhere in the 90 to 92% range.
Is that good?
It's incredibly good. It's hard to get 92% of anybody to agree on anything. And we've talked about this before. I think it's a joke, except it's not funny, that Monte McNair hasn't been extended yet. And not for the automatic reasons people might think. Now, you might sit there and you might say, well, hold on, Dave. Monty's been the GM now going into 3 years. The team has not made the playoffs. The team was, about 20 games under 500 last year. There haven't really been any crazy signature moves. Obviously, great draft with Tyrese Halliburton and acquired Domantas Sabonis, so we'll still call that a wash, but that's a great move. Donovan Mitchell seems to rank about where he was drafted last year at 9.
What about Davion Mitchell?
I'm sorry, Davion Mitchell. I haven't been doing that all week too. I've been so proud. And then Keegan Murray, at least through summer league, looks like at the very least a good pick at 4. Not bad. Not outperforming. It's just where he should have gone one way or the other. You look at the peripheral moves. Malik Monk and Kevin Huerter aren't going to blow anyone out of the water, but bring more talent, especially being able to get a free agent as young as Monk to come here and sign for a couple of years. Kevin Huerter's a different story a little bit. Again, obviously adding talent, and it's an upgrade. We've said before, the caveat there is the draft pick that's involved and what might hamstring them down the road. I really don't believe you trade draft picks like that, especially Kings first rounders, unless it's an absolute home run swing or something close to that. But the team is better now than when, on paper at least, than when Monty took over, number one. Number two, they seem to be trending better with this is Monte McNair's first coach that he was able to hire, and Mike Brown. And now you're looking at a situation where you're going into this year, and Monte McNair is on the final year of his deal. So he is, in effect, a lame duck GM. You have a coach that has been signed to a 4-year deal. And it just is, to me, an unnecessary distraction. Now, Jay, when I say not for the reasons people may think, you could argue Monte McNair should be extended on merit. But what we've always argued is that though we don't know what Monte McNair is making, I would say it's plus or minus right in the range of $1 million a year, which is a ton of money for us, but is an absolute drop in the bucket in the NBA, especially when you consider that it factors not at all into the cap. So the idea here is you extend Monte McNair for at least 2, if not 3 years, and you throw out a team option for a 4th, you're almost certainly not firing Monte McNair during this season. If you were going to fire him, it would happen in the offseason.
Sure.
And if you chose
conventional wisdom would say so. This is the Kings.
Yes, I know that's a point well taken. But the idea there is that if you did part ways with him this summer, even after extending him, you've lost $2 million, which is less than what you paid Luke Walton last year and will pay Luke Walton this year to not coach the team. You've done this a ton. It doesn't affect your cap. It sends a wonderful message. There's very little downside to me in extending Monte McNair, and it bothers me that it hasn't been done yet.
I agree with you. I think, again, conventional wisdom would say, look, he has incrementally improved this team over the last couple seasons. He inherited a mess. They weren't going to be an overnight fix as much as maybe the ownership group might have wanted it to be, as much as the fan base might have wanted it to be. He wasn't going to make moves to make moves. He's shown that already.
Yes.
I have to wonder, do you think, we're just, guessing here, obviously, do you think ownership has any trepidation about extending him since didn't Vlade get a 3-year extension and then was fired not even a year later? Do you think that plays into it?
I think it might, but I don't think it should, because Vlade Divac and Monte McNair are 2 different books and 2 different chapters in the story of the Kings. And you'll remember, and you brought it up perfectly, that Vlade Divac, after that Dave Yeager year, where they let Dave go, but were so close to 500. Everything was trending in the right direction. Here we go. Let's extend Vlade. Well, I think it was the right idea. It did not work out properly. That should not inform your decision with Monte McNair. Agreed. And the more, everything right now is trending positive. People are happy. People are feeling good. And of course, this whole thing could go away next week if they sit down with Monte and his representatives and re-sign him. And the fact that we as fans and media are so wrapped up in this, just honestly tip of the cap to Kings fans, who are some of the most intelligent in the world when it comes to their team and also understand what things mean. Most fans don't care if their GM has a contract or not, but we understand stability is a big deal here in Sacramento. The longer this goes on, Jay, the more guys like me seriously worry about why. Why are they not? Yeah. Why have they not? When all logic dictates that you give this guy an extension, even if you're not sure you're going to keep him after this season. It worries me. It tells me that there is a little smoke here, and I'm very worried about Monte McNair's job security.
Well, I want to go back to what you just said and why it worries you, because, again, go back to this idea that it is conventional wisdom, given everything that has happened, and most teams would have extended the GM, even if it's a 2-year extension with the second year being a team option. There is something there in place usually big if, capital IF, the ownership group feels the GM has done his job well.
Yes.
I think the GM has done his job well. You think the GM has done his job well. The fan base, for the most part, seems to think the GM has done his job well.
Overwhelmingly.
So, and going back to now, again, dealing with the Kings and dealing with this ownership group that has made some very questionable decisions in the past, it starts to ring all those alarms. And when you're going into a season where there are expectations that this team may finally at least make the postseason, not necessarily the playoffs, but the postseason, there's positive energy around. It just feels like every time that there is something positive going on, something stupid happens. And we're trending towards that right now, going into the season, that something stupid might happen.
And we have every reason to believe that.
Yes.
Every reason to believe that when you go back to the Michael Malone firing and what happened there, when you go to the circumstances under which DeMarcus Cousins was traded at the All-Star break while he was in the middle of an interview.
Isaiah Thomas being traded for peanuts.
Isaiah Thomas being traded for peanuts.
To sign Darren Collison.
Even the hiring of Luke Walton and how quickly that was done without a real search whatsoever when there didn't seem to be a competitive market for them.
And Dave Yeager had just had the best wins in-season win total of any coach since Rick Adelman.
And that's a different topic. And I've often said I that's where I'll stand in front of the franchise a little bit. I think that move had to happen for other reasons. But in this case, it's just that we talk about unforced errors. These are unforced errors. It's messaging that you could, it's pennies on the dollar when you equate the positive PR, the culture, and the stability that this team and this franchise needs. And by the way, Jay, one more thing. I know we got a break. In addition to the free agent, draft picks, acquisitions, this, that, whatever, Monty hasn't been perfect at all. But in addition to all that, to build a case for him, also the leaks. You've heard people in our own media that are upset that they've been shut out of this and shut out of that. I say, listen, I get it, but good. And same for me. I'm good with I bet my access compared to how it was before has crawled to a trickle, and I am 100% here for it. The leaks aren't happening like they used to. There's more stability, and he's assumed more control.
And here's the big thing that comes with the stability and everything you're talking about. Has Monte McNair made some mistakes? Sure. Monte McNair hasn't made a big mistake yet.
Correct.
Vlade Divac's made big mistakes. Pete D'Alessandro, big mistakes. Monte McNair has not made a big mistake yet.
Meanwhile, you have a lame duck GM, and you're watching your former GM sitting courtside with your ownership during summer league games. Is it a big deal? Am I going crazy because Vlade is around the franchise? No, I love Vlade. I'm fine with that. It's just weird and unique to the Sacramento Kings. We'll take